we have here an early 18th century set of Plutarch's lives in 8 volumes complete. I will describe the bindings shortly, but first we'll open up to the title page and see that it is printed in London by Tonson in 1727. There's this excellent frontis here, allegorical figures, and medallions, and a globe, and an obelisk, and so on. And this set here, we see nice large woodcut ornaments there, and there's more of them throughout the set, and there's also almost 60, I believe it's 57 in total, of these copper engraved plates here by Gucht, and they are scattered throughout. They typically are at the beginning of each section of a life. Here's one here. And the bindings, here's another one. Someone long ago has inserted strips of paper to mark where each engraving is. We've taken most of them out, but there's a few stray ones floating around in the set. We see on the set that it's a full period calf binding. It's very heavily worn. It clearly got age-dried at some point, and much of the gilt has flecked or flaked off. The joint on some of the volumes, the front joint here is split. There could be some tiny chipping. But despite this rather heavy, extensive age wear, the set, we leather conditioned it with a rare book leather conditioner and brought it really back to life. The leather is now supple. It's a very, to my eyes, I find it to be a handsome looking set. Yeah, I mean, I can accept the fact of the spines with the lack of the some of the labels, titles, and so on. It's got this early unicorn or a book plate here, custom to an owner who's unidentified. And I noticed tucked into this first volume is a very early description from a book dealer, probably, looks like it could be from the 19-teens or 20s or something. It says here, remarkably fine set in the original binding, it may be termed with perfect propriety the first complete and correct edition of Plutarch, and the first to contain the valuable additions by Dacier. The illustrative matter consists of a copperplate portrait by Plutarch and upwards of 60, well, I think he means actually 57, Gucht. The value of this edition may be best shown by the following extract from the admirable preface. And so it was early on has been considered one of the key sets of Plutarch, and it's the fact that it's still in its original binding for me is nice. It's entirely what I think could be called unsophisticated. It hasn't been rebacked. It doesn't have new covers, new end papers. It hasn't been shaved down or anything. It's just got this very early English binding, this full calf with all of the boards double ruled in gilt outline like so, with this inner running pattern done stamped in blind. And all of the covers, even despite some of the cracked joints, get that out like so, all of the covers, the boards, remain well attached by their original binding cords, which is fairly typical for 18th century leather bindings, is that the bookbinder really, they really knew how to bind books, and they did it with an eye towards, apparently, eternity, towards the books never coming apart. And so sometimes you'll, in fact, quite frequently, you can find books that even if the covers have become detached, the text block remains absolutely tight and sewn as issued. That's a nice frontis there. That one actually is done by King, 1726. But all the boards remain firmly attached, and it's just I find it to be a very pleasing set. I like this set a lot. I like the fact that there's just such a profusion of these engravings. Oh, here's Julius Caesar. The majority of the engravings, I'd say just about all, except for a couple, are by Van der Gucht. No doubt a Dutch engraver. He's famous. This frontispiece is by King. I'm not sure if Van der Gucht worked in London. I can't recall. He may well have. This end paper here, this free end paper is now loose. Let's see here. All right, yeah, there's a Van der Gucht, another one. Okay. Cicero. Let's see, we have here. Life of Marcus Cicero. And the final volume. It's like so. Here you can really see that pattern. Oh, that's a great frontis there. Yes, and so this 8-volume set is now available online from me, Brian DeMambro.